Thank you for joining us for Everything Under the Sun, the AccuWeather podcast. I'm joined in the studio by Andy Robb, my producer, and my director of audio services, Ken Prell. Guys, this week we are talking about allergies, and we have the spring allergy forecast coming up. Do either of you guys have allergies?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Do you?
Indeed. I
have an allergy to him.
to Andy.
That's why we're sitting so far away from each
Yeah,
other.
I see that. You're on opposite ends of the room. What's yours too, Andy?
I believe it's pollen.
Pollen?
Yeah. I get
None in particular, just all
in like
pollen.
springtime, I just get very,
I'm coming off a pretty serious head cold. I don't know if that had anything to do with allergies.
Yeah,
but,
I get them confused. Well, like as we're getting ready to go into this episode, I said to Ken, I was like, you can check on some different tips and ideas, and then I find you're over there clicking, can a sneeze kill you?
Well, I went to WebMD, and then it had a can a sneeze kill you?
Was it a pop-up?
Yeah, well, I clicked on it.
Yes.
And it led me nowhere.
It led you nowhere.
I think I downloaded a bunch of viruses on my computer now.
You're just clicking on the pop-ups there. So, but, we were kind of looking at some of the different things you can do for tips. And one of the things that I had seen, which I didn't even think about this, but people who have serious allergies to some kinds of pollen, they can't even eat raw fruits and vegetables that might have even a trace of that pollen on them.
See, that's funny you said that, because I am on WebMD, and one of the tips was eat healthy. It's actually said in one study, children who ate lots of fresh vegetables, fruits, and nuts, particularly grapes, apples, oranges, and tomatoes, had fewer allergy symptoms.
Right. So I don't know which it is.
Yes, so I don't
Right,
know. It
right.
said, researchers, this was just one study,
Right.
so there needs to be more studies, but apparently for children, it
Right.
could actually be a good thing.
Well, and the other thing I was thinking, too, is if you're eating like an apple, so you just pull an apple off the tree, and it does have pollen on the outside of it, like they say you're supposed to cook that. You're supposed to cook the apple.
Cook the apple?
Yeah, they said that they don't have the pollen on it, so people that have severe allergic reactions to certain pollens should cook their, apples or whatever,
I always just rinse them off, I figured that would help. I didn't realize you had to cook them.
Yeah, well, that's what it said. So I'm assuming that it must be for people that have really bad allergies. But also, the other thing that I had heard, which we do this at our house when the tree pollen's particularly bad, is to, wipe off your pets. If they're outside and they come in and you're really allergic, they have pollen all over them. So you should wipe off your pets.
Another one here from WebMD. Wash up. Every time you walk into your home, you're bringing small pieces from the outside world in with you. So just jump in the shower right away. You'll be good.
Right away.
Take a shower. Just never leave the shower.
Throw the clothes in the wash.
Fine.
You'll be great. And so we're going to be talking to Alan Reppert coming up. And he actually did the article for AccuWeather.com, letting us know what we can expect for the 2019 allergy forecast. Stay with us. Well, it's that time of year for the spring allergy forecast, and for allergy sufferers, I know they want to know how the season's going to be, so I'm joined in the studio right now by meteorologist Alan Reppert, and you have studied this for this season, so you're here to let us know what it's like.
That's right. Yes, it's definitely looking like it's going to be a very high season for the pollen across much of the Northeast.
Oh, really? Now, let's kind of break down. Are you an allergy sufferer by any chance?
I am. I'm pretty bad allergy sufferer, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's rough. So I'm fortunate because I don't struggle with allergies, because where I live, we get significant tree pollen that turns everything green. But I'm glad that I don't, but I see my neighbor mowing the lawn usually, and he's got the whole mask and everything. So I know it can get bad. But let's start with the areas getting hit first this season and what they can expect. Now, you said some of the deep south already has seen their season.
Right. Across parts of Florida through really along the Gulf Coast, we've seen a lot of the worst conditions already passed. So thankfully, in those areas, we're starting to see some relief from at least the spring allergens. But going up north into the Carolinas, we're really starting to see the high and very high levels for most of those areas. And even climbing into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, we're looking at the levels really starting to increase here with these warmer temperatures that we're seeing and the rainfall that we've seen around. So it's really helping to, these warmer conditions are really starting to bring out this pollen.
The Carolinas, for example, when do you think is going to be the worst time frame?
Really looking at early to mid-April time frame for the worst conditions there. As we push more into the I-95 corridor area through D.C., Philadelphia and New York City, we're actually looking at things to be late April to early May that we'll see the worst conditions there.
Oh, okay. So let's kind of those two particular areas, let's talk about how they compare to previous years.
Well, at least for last year, it was toned down a little bit, especially for spring. It was a slower warm-up to the year that we saw across much of the East Coast last year. So that really helped to at least keep it a little slower to really kick in for the allergies. But it still is looking like it's going to be another bad year. Last year was not as bad as what we're looking at for the Carolinas through the Mid-Atlantic.
How did last season, our winter season, what kind of impact would that have on our allergy season?
Well, a lot of the times with the increased snowfall, we're going to see plenty of moisture for the plants to grow, and a lot of the areas really have a lot of that moisture in the soil that they can grow, and the trees and all the plants can grow quickly. We also have temperatures to worry about. The temperatures were very cold here over the winter for much of the East Coast and even into the Midwest. That colder than normal there, at least for the beginning of the season, is really helping to make it for a much more quicker hitting season.
Oh, okay. So shorter lived.
Maybe. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have plenty of rainfall around, so it might last for much of the spring that we'll see some continued allergens.
So with higher moisture amounts, we're talking specifically about pollens, not like molds or whatever.
Right.
We're talking specifically about its impact on the pollens.
Right. Mold is completely different, unfortunately. Really, the mold lives off of anything that's wet, so when we have wet, cool weather, the mold is really going to increase with that.
Okay. Let's kind of work our way then up towards the Northeast. The timing of the worst of the season.
Right.
Would you say?
Into like Boston and even up into Maine, we're looking at things to really peak here around late May and even maybe early June for far northern parts of Maine. And that's when we'll see. We're not looking at things to be as bad in the Mid-Atlantic here, but we are still looking at high pollen levels for this year.
Are there specific pollens that are going to be a particular problem?
Really, with the trees, tree season is broken up into many different pollen levels. You have like oak, birch, you have all these different trees that produce, and unfortunately they kick in at different times of year for as you progress northward. So it's really looking like it's going to be a lot of the pollens just all mixed together. Really tough. At first you start off with some of the like poplar trees, things like that, and then as you progress in the season you get more of the oak trees, more of the bigger, especially the bigger trees that we see in like more of the old growth forests that really kick in there.
So unfortunately one dies down and another one comes up and replaces it after that.
And then as we go into the summer, we start to see the grass pollens really increase. So even if you might not be feeling it early in the spring or even in through the middle of the spring, you might actually have the grass pollens really increasing and kicking up, affecting you here towards the end of spring and into the summer.
Right. So there's always something, unfortunately, for allergy sufferers. And you talked about the Northeast, and how did our past season impact that one?
Yeah, the last season here with all that snow, especially farther south that transferred northward and cold weather, really helping to, and we're still seeing some snow around. So that's helping to at least tamper things for now. But as we get into the year, as we get into like May, and that's looking like it's really going to help bring these trees to really bloom and cause all of our pollen issues.
So, Alan, you said you suffer with allergies. So, like, what do you have to do to deal with it when these are bad?
Well, I really try and stay in as much as possible in the early morning and nighttime hours when the pollen levels are really the highest. Through the day, they'll go down, especially around lunchtime. They'll be typically the lowest here with the morning dew and just the growing from during the day. They'll climb in the morning and afternoon. Also try and stay in the AC as much as possible. And but me specifically, I also get some allergy shots. Went to the allergist, had my test done, had the pinpricks to the back. That testing done.
So you know
through
what
an
you're
allergist.
fighting, like you know what you're dealing with.
Right, correct. Knowing if you're really allergic to trees or grass or weeds or even mold.
Right. And you said you can get pollen shots.
Right. Yes. Pollen shots through an allergist. They'll, if your allergies are really bad, they'll prescribe you allergy shots. Start off like once a week for a regimen, and then eventually increase to once every month, roughly.
Okay, thanks, Alan, for talking to us. And I want to let people know that they can read your article that you wrote for AccuWeather, the 2019 U.S. Spring Allergy Forecast, and they can find that on AccuWeather.com. So thanks again, Alan.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks to our guest, Alan Reppert, and thanks to you for listening. Now, we just got done talking about spring outdoor allergy season.
Mm-hmm.
And next, we're talking about other outdoor stuff next week. Outdoor concerts, venues, fairs, festivals, and whether or not you're weather safe at those. So a lot of times people check the forecast before they go. But what about you guys? Do you do that?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
Yeah.
Always before an event. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever check it during the event?
No, because then you're pretty much, you're zoned in on whatever you're there for, either a ball game or a concert or whatever.
Yeah, I just don't bother to even think about it. But
Right.
we're going to answer some of those questions coming up next week, because we're going to find out just how you get that peace of mind and how people that go to these outdoor events are kept safe when it comes to severe weather. So we'll be talking to an owner of an event management company and how he works with AccuWeather to help keep people safe.
So tune in for that.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to AccuWeather's Everything Under the Sun, giving you the stories behind the weather and so much more. New episodes every Thursday. Just search for AccuWeather on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or visit AccuWeather.com/podcast.